Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder when I step off the train and deliver an episode to you while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, good afternoon, listeners. It is a gloomy day here in suburban Chicago. It's not outrageously oppressively gloomy, but the sky is that gray color that nobody enjoys, and the weather is warm enough that I'm not wearing a hat and gloves or anything. Thankfully, it's April, but it is cool enough that I'm a little on the chilled side and I'm wearing a jacket, so whatever. Take that for what you will. You may have noticed it's been a while since I've chatted with you. There's a couple reasons for that. The first one is, if you are not a listener to the Please Get Me Started podcast, you really should be. Please Get Me Started is run by my friend Nick Mariner, who is the host. If you know him from board game circles, he was a regular contributor to Ben Maddox's old podcast, Perfect Information, and he's on Twitter and various other places. This podcast, basically what he does is he gets people together and has them talk about something they're really into for a long time. The idea is, how somebody says, don't get me started on that. He says, please get me started is the premise. And he generally will ask questions as though he doesn't know anything about the subject, with the idea of getting that person to really elaborate on it. So Nick invited me on to talk about, I bet you guessed it, board games, and we had a good time chatting about that. That episode is about an hour and a half, and it came out last week, and so I didn't feel like I should put out episodes of Pick Up and Deliver when there's another 90 minutes of my board game blathering on the internet. Okay, you got me. That is totally not true. I mean, the episode coming out last week is totally true, but the bit about me not putting things out, the honest reality is it was spring break and my whole family had the week off, as did I, and so we were just hanging out together and I didn't really have time to go record episodes. I should have popped in and said, hey, I'm not recording episodes this week. If you want an episode, go listen to this thing. But instead I was lazy and did nothing, which, if you're a relatively new listener, you'll realize is a thing that happens every now and again on this podcast. While I often do hold to a schedule of 2 or 3 episodes per week, that is a spotty record that comes and goes. So welcome to the first unannounced gap in the podcast schedule for the recent times. But I'm back now. My school has started up again, and I'm happy to be chatting with you once more. So while I was on my break, the calendar clicked over from March to April, which means that it's the first episode back since I started a new month, which means that it's time for the top of the stack. I need a sting. I need a top of the stack sting. If there's anybody out there who wants to send me a little musical bit to put in each month when I do the top of the stack sting, or the top of the stack, I will credit you for it. That'd be awesome. Otherwise, I'm just going to make random noises a little bit like I have been. Maybe those are more fun. I don't know. So for new listeners, Top of the Stack is an episode where I review what I played in the last month, and I talk a little bit about what's coming up in the next month. I stole the title, Top of the Stack, and the idea from the lamentably canceled podcast, the Podcast of Nonsensical Gamers. That podcast, they had a thing they would do every week where they talked to each other about games they were planning to play, as though there is a literal or metaphorical stack of games waiting to be played. Which games did they have arranged on the top of the stack? That's what that's about. And so each month I pick 3 games that I want to play and try to play them. So I also track a variety of other stats. So here we are. Let's jump into it. So reviewing my month of games in March. March was a busy gaming month for me. I played a ton of games online, but I also played a lot of games in person. My normal game night has returned, so there were lots of games to play at Toggle Gaming, but also because it was spring break, we played a bunch of games as a family during the week that we normally wouldn't do. So between those two things, I ended up with 105 plays this month of 65 different games. For my year total is 281 out of 120. So that 105 sounds outrageous, but with 281, that means I'm averaging something like 95 games a month. Anyway, so that 105 is a little high, but not outrageous. My shelf of opportunity, my goal is to get it down to 30 games. I started at 61 at the beginning of the year. It went up 3 games, I'm afraid, due to a lucky find at a Goodwill. I acquired some games this month. We'll get to that. And that also hurt my other goal, which is to reduce my collection size. I'm at 532 I went from 532 to 539 games this month. My most played game this month in person was So Clover. I played it several times at Toggle Gaming and elsewhere because it's just a lovely little treat. And my asynchronous game was Through the Ages. Not only am I playing with Ray regularly, but I'm playing with Chris from the Shuffle Buddies podcast. And even now I have a game going with Gabriel Edge. Proof Pad is the username there. And Gabriel, I know, listens. I think Chris does too. Sometimes Ray, I'm not sure if Ray is a listener or an occasional listener. So my top of the stack report, I picked out the way I always do it is I pick out 3 primary games and 1 revisit or reattempt. And the idea of that last one is it's a game I've tried to put on the top of the stack before, or I have put on the top of the stack before and failed to play. And so there it is. So my 4 games this month, of which playing 3 would count as a success. I had Vast the Crystal Caverns, Hunted Kobayashi Tower, Ticket to Ride New York, and Alma Mater. So how'd I do? 3 out of 4. I tried out Vast the Crystal Caverns. I think I talked about that in an episode already. If not, it'll be in an episode coming up soon, but I'm pretty sure I covered it. I tried out Ticket to Ride New York, and I tried out Alma Mater. Now, if you follow my Twitter, or you read everything I put on Board Game Geek, I guess those are the 2 places I asked about this. The Alma Mater play is a little controversial. Let me share. So I learned how to play Alma Mater. I got it all set up. I walked through a couple turns so I understood it. I got it all set out. I invited my wife to join me. I thought my daughter was going to join me too, but she backed out at the last minute, which then I had to change the setup because it went from being 3 players to 2. It's a different setup for 2 players, so I had to rearrange things a little bit. Then I taught the game to my wife, and Alma Mater fits in the category of the Italian get things by getting other things games. Particularly ones where you have a lot of different small bonuses you can get that you chain together to get bigger, more efficient stuff. So I was hoping that the gameplay experience would be like Coimbra, which I really, really enjoy. Instead, it was closer to Lorenzo Il Magnifico, which I enjoy, but boy, I wouldn't put that in front of my wife. And I'm afraid that it was a bit too much. There was something about the interaction of the different pieces she found confusing, which frankly I was not doing a great job teaching. This is all on me for not picking a game that was suitable. But by the time we got to the halfway point, it was clear to me that she was not enjoying herself. And I don't want to keep playing a game, especially a 2-player game, where my partner is not having a good time. I don't really see the point of that. Unless, like, if someone else is playing a game and I'm playing a game and I'm not having a good time, but it's a new game that I want to try, I would say, no, let's finish. I want to see how the game ends. And then, if I had a bad time playing it, then I know I didn't like the game, but I'm almost always going to want to finish. But if I'm having a good time and someone else who's not enjoying themselves, I will happily say, let's quit. If you're not having fun, there's no point. And that's what happened. She said, no, you taught it to me. You figured it out. And I'm like, whatever. I don't want to keep playing if you're not having fun. She's like, I'm not having fun. So we stopped. So that leads me to my question. If I set this game up, taught it, and we played 3 of the 6 rounds, was it a play? Is it still on my shelf of opportunity or not? I decided it was a play and it's not still on my shelf of opportunity. I have tried it. If I give it away without playing it again, I won't feel bad. I would like to play it again, just so I can see what it's like all the way through. See if there's more there that I'm missing or see how the nuance plays out. But in terms of counting it as a success, I'm counting it as a success, which means I played 3 of my 4. The one I did not get to was Hunted Kobayashi Tower, which is a little annoying because that's a solo game. So I totally could have played that if I'd just given myself an hour to do it. But maybe next time. So that means this far I've done 8 of my 9 games. 2 of the months I've gotten 3 games. 1 of the months I only got 2. So on my way. Let's talk about first plays. A bunch of games that I played for the first time this month, and I'm happy to share them with you. I think I've mentioned them before mostly, but we have Rolling Realms, Libertalia, Exactica. I know I talked about all of those. We have Vast the Crystal Caverns, Stumblewood, and Code of Nine. Yes, I talked about all 3 of those in the same episode. We have Way of the Dragon, which is a sort of can't stop style dice rolling game. I played on Board Game Arena. We have Shifting Stones, which is a abstract game about rearranging and flipping over tiles in order to match patterns on cards. It was fine. Played a couple rounds of it with Gabriel, and that was probably enough. I don't know that I'll need to play it again, although if somebody really wants to, I'll play. We played Funfair, which I think I talked about on here. If I haven't yet, I will talk about that soon. Rift Force, which is a card battler where you're building a tableau of cards, and each card has a different set of, or each type of card has a different set of skills, and you're kind of manipulating the numbers of the cards and the clans of the cards and using their special skills. It's interesting so far. I'm on my second game online, again with Gabriel, and I think it would be a game that would be pretty fun in person. I think online it's not quite as fun, but I'm enjoying it nonetheless. And then we have Ticket to Ride New York, Alma Mater, and Blooms. Blooms is an abstract game not entirely dissimilar from Go, although Go is certainly a much better game in many ways. I understand. I don't play Go, so what do I know? But that's another one I've tried, and I've enjoyed that so far. So that is the new games I played this month, which puts me up to 35 new games this year. A nice number for 3 months in. Well on my way to cresting 100, which is always my goal, or has been my goal the last few years. So let's keep on rolling. My first expansion plays this month. I had tried 6 new expansions before the beginning of March. By the end of March, I'd tried 7. I tried 1 expansion, and that was the promo tiles for Cascadia, which I picked up at Gen Con this year at the same time I was buying Cascadia. But it was nice to get those promo tiles. So it's been, particularly because my son was home, and he and I were, because my son was home, and he was helping pick the games we play. My son's preferred mode to play a game is the game he knows how to play already. Like, he likes playing a new game, okay, but his preferred mode is, I already know how to play this. I want to play this again. It's familiar. He likes routine. So we often, when he's picking a game, we'll play stuff that we've played before. I also went to a neighbor's and I picked a couple games that he hadn't tried, but that I knew how to play. But a couple of them were, older than, were not super recent. So it was fun to bring over a game that he hadn't seen, and I hadn't played in a while. So my Out of the Dust games. Out of the Dust is games you haven't played for a year or more. That's what that means. I had several of them this month. Played Tiny Towns again. If you haven't played Tiny Towns, get on that. It's so good. Go listen to my episode about that. Boss Monster, which I think I talked about it as though it was new, but I definitely had played it before. Big Book of Madness, which is a cooperative game I've played many times and I really enjoy, but weirdly, it's the first time my wife had ever played it. I don't know if she liked it or not, but we had a good time. Epic Resort, which is a deck building / worker placement game that is pretty good. It's a little finicky, but enjoyable. Beautiful art from Jackie Davis. Tides of Madness, a 2-player card drafting game that is excellent and you should definitely play if you can. Tides of Time is the original version. Tides of Madness is a follow-up. Both are great. I think Tides of Madness is a little better, but playing either one would be satisfying, certainly. And then Clans of Caledonia, I've been playing that on Board Game Arena again. I haven't played that for a while, so it's nice to get back to it. Although it turns out I don't remember how to win, so I'm gonna need to take a couple more swings at that one. Our family 10x10 is going very slowly. We have 7 games out of our 100 played. We have 3 plays of Kingdom Rush, 1 play of Cascadia, 2 plays of Libertalia, and 1 play of Super Skill Pinball. We also haven't even picked the other games. Seems like this 10 for 10 is doomed for failure, but I've got a while yet. And then finally, my 52 game challenge. I played another 7 games in that list, which is great because as we go along, it gets harder and harder to fulfill those, which means I have to be more deliberate about fulfilling them, which means that the more that I get done early on, the better we all will be. So with that regard, here are the requirements I met for this year, this month in the 52 game challenge. First off, play your favorite prompt from 2018, a game with alliteration in the title. I picked Shifting Stones for that. Play a game with a city name in the title. I picked Ticket to Ride New York. Play a game with an unusual theme. Bunny, bunny, moose, moose, anyone? Yes, please. Play a game with a house rule. Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. We have a custom house rule regarding the poison because the poison in the original game was too punishing for our taste. Play a game that came out in 2022. Libertalia Winds of Galecrest. That's brand new. Just came out. Happy to play it. Play a game by a designer who's designed games in 5 different mechanisms. Actually, this says mechanics, but I can't bear to. Richard Garfield. I played a couple rounds of Magic the Gathering with my neighbor, and old Dick has designed games with lots of different mechanisms. Off the top of my head, I can think of card drafting and area control. That's Bunny Kingdom. We've got deck construction game, Magic the Gathering. We have programming game, Robo Rally. We have, there's a deck building race game, the new vampire game that just came out. I can't remember what it's called. And then we have Yahtzee style dice rolling and area control in King of Tokyo. That's 5. And he's done several more games, so no problem. And then finally redo one of this year's prompts with a different genre. So the number 24 says play a game where the title of the game is also a book, but the book has nothing to do with the game or the subject of the game. So there's a book called Calico that's not about cats or sewing. It's a dramatic literature novel. So there we go, Calico. So I'm up to 26 of the 52 goals, which means that I'm well on my way to finishing. Now, there's not a lot else to report. My shelf of opportunity log is a little bit bigger because I have picked up a few games. I got Libertalia and Rolling Realms, both of which I played, but added to my collection size. I also had Perseverance, the Castaway Chronicles showed up. And then I got 4 games at Goodwill. I found Princess of Florence with an expansion in it, Fuse, Snake Oil, and Double Feature. So I'm really excited to have all of those in my collection now, but it did boost up the size of my collection in a way that's not great, and I'm going to have to really do a sale and a cull soon here now that the spring is here. This coming month for my games, I have at the top of my stack the Princess of Florence, and then the revisit / audience choice Teach You, the random choice Paradox, which is a game I got a couple months ago, and the reattempt Hunted Kobayashi Tower, which I was supposed to do last month and did not. So how did you do on your top of the stack this month? Let me know by going over to Board Game Geek Guild 3269 and sharing your experiences in the comments or in the forum there. I look forward to hearing from you. Until next time, thanks for joining me on my walk, and I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.